Welcome to Your Business, Your Life with Matt DiFrancesco, your personal financial technician. Whether you've had years of success in your business or are just starting out, HighLift Financial can help you create a vision for your business, life, and family, and align these for generational wealth. So as they say, what happens in your life affects your business. And now, on to the show. Hello, and welcome to Your Business, Your Life with me, Matt DiFrancesco. And hey, I'm really excited today because I don't have just one guest. I've got two guests today. Both are affiliated with the CSN network of collision shops. I've got John Hollingsworth, who is the Director of Business Development for CSN. It takes me a while sometimes to get that. And then I've got Kristle Bollans, who is the National Sales Director. And Kristle is also on the Board of Directors and Chairman of the Industry Relations Committee with the Women's Industry Network. So we're going to talk a little bit about CSN, how they support independent shops, and also about WIN and how that's helping women in the industry. So it's going to be kind of a very eclectic sort of talk. John and Kristle, welcome to Your Business, Your Life.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having us. Good to see you. Last time we saw you, we were seeing the eclipse.
That's exactly right. We were at the PPG MVP conference, and it was at Frisco, Texas, which was on the line of the eclipse. So we were actually sitting on the outdoor patio of the Omni, drinking champagne with our eclipse glasses, watching the eclipse.
Rough life.
I know. It's tough, man. We definitely live a rough life. So I want to just kind of first off kind of throw out there, because one of the things we were talking about, and I see this a lot of times with the independent shops that I'm working with, they feel some pressure because they don't quite have the buying power that a lot of the large MSOs and large consolidators have, and they're wondering how to compete. And I think CSN provides a solution. So, you guys want to just tell us a little bit about how CSN helps to support the independent shop?
First off, it's a weird climate that we find ourselves in this industry right now. And if you're an independent, it's like you mentioned, there's a lot of fear right now. Just because there's a lot of consolidation happening in all the markets. They do need some support as far as being able to compete with that consolidation, not just from buying power, but what Kristle does on the insurance side, and being able to have higher level conversations with the carriers. Buying power is certainly a part of being part of our network. It's a landing spot for an independent shop that doesn't want to go the franchise route, or doesn't want to sell out, wants to stay independent, keep their name, keep their what they've built so far, and get a lot of the same kind of perks that they would get being in a franchise model, or being part of a bigger MSO group. It's a great spot for them to feel like they're not out there on an island by themselves.
Right.
The shops that we look for, we're looking for the mom and pop shops. They're becoming more scarce every day. Mm-hmm. However, there's ones that they're excellent operators. A lot of the times, I don't want to talk bad on any of the competition that's out there, but at the same time, I will say that oftentimes the mom and pop shops do better work.
Right.
And Matt, and you've been in this business for long enough to know that, they care about the customer. It's not just a number to them fixing that vehicle. They care about putting that car together and making it safe for the family of the person that's dropping it off. There's a lot of trust involved there. And sometimes I think, with all the private equity that's entering our industry, you can sometimes feel like you're just a number.
Right.
And these mom and pop shops absolutely don't feel that way about their customers. So we're a great landing spot for shops that care like that, because as a network, we also have that same philosophy. We're not owned by any private equity, which is big. A lot of our competition that's out there that do some of the same kind of things that we do, they're private equity. So you kind of got to look at us as the independent side of the network space, where you can get that extra level of support and, with your operations, your admin side, and again, like the buying power and relationships with carriers.
We have a rich history of that being our backbone. We were started by body shop owners, and we are still owned by 4 body shop owners. So it is ingrained in our culture, that independent ideal and what that looks like. So yeah, it's exactly who we are.
It's interesting because, and I've run across this lately with a couple clients that I'm working with, where they're feeling the pressure. Like, I just can't keep up this grind. I can't keep the 60, 70 hours a week up, and I want to get out. But here's what the problem is that, and this is one of the good things about the industry is the cash flow is really good. I mean, that's what's attracting private equity to it. But a lot of these shop owners are living at this lifestyle. And so we'll go to market with third-party buyer, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, these numbers, you're not going to live the lifestyle. You don't have that cash cow anymore. And now they're trying to figure out, well, now what do I do? And I think you guys provide a solution that can be kind of that happy medium where they can actually continue to operate, but also have the resources from a larger firm that can help them to develop and grow. One question I wanted to ask you guys, and this is one I run into because a lot of these owners, typically they're very owner-centric type of shops. And one of the things I talk to them about is, okay, we've got to figure out, I'll help them to work through management succession and like, all right, what responsibilities do you have? Who's the successor for that? And how can we develop them to take that over for you? Do you guys have programs that can help shop owners with that type of thing?
We definitely have resources that are part of our team. Kelly Cooper, who runs our operations down here in the US, he actually, before he came to work with us, he was a body shop owner for a number of years out of the Chicago area, and he sold. So he's had firsthand experience, on that side of things. Throughout the years, he's helped some of our shops look at the numbers, develop plans. Like you said, if there's like a second generation coming in to take over the business, and there's usually a handoff there, and it's got to be done right. You can't just jump in and take over for dad or whoever you're taking over for in the business and want to do things your way. You kind of have to be commingled in that process or it's not going to work. We do have some resources when it comes to that. I highly recommend using those resources, such as yourself too, because I think that oftentimes body shops listen to other body shops, and that might not always be the best advice. I think sometimes bringing in somebody outside of the experience might be better.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I was going to say, is that the beauty of the CSN product service is having this like a la carte menu, right? So it's just really dependent on what you need. And that's what we mold our value prop to that shop. And if you need a succession plan, or if you need to, help with training, recruiting, those sort of things, we will certainly step in and provide guidance and support in those areas.
I think the guidance and recruiting is probably a big thing because we all know that, everybody's struggling to try to find techs, and especially the smaller shops. I was just talking to this young kid I met. He's like 35 years old, started this shop 5-6 years ago, and he's just struggling. He's got a part-time kid that he can't rely on. He's got his uncle working there, and he's like, I don't know how I'm going to grow this thing. How do I find people? So that's part of the process that you guys can assist with.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's one of our bread and butter offerings that we have for our shops. I don't know another group out there that's doing recruiting. First of all, we go about it in a very unique way without giving out all of the secret sauce about how we do it. We have all the subscriptions to the Monster and Deeds and all that stuff, but we took it a step further. We actually have a database where we can see where, technicians are currently at. We'll call up technicians that are at, some of the bigger MSOs because they've started doing that to some of the independent shops. We're just playing their game. And we'll say, hey, there's an opening over here at this independent shop, Bob's Collision Shop. Would you be interested in having a conversation? And we've been able to get a lot of people through the door that way. And then it's up to the shop whether or not they close them or not. But we do track it. We have about a 70% success rate, and we're pretty proud of that. With the way the climate is with the tech shortage right now, we're very proud of that number. It can always be better. There's always room for improvement, but it's definitely a powerful offering if you come be part of our network.
Right. So did you have anything you wanted to add, Kristle?
Nope, not. I think John nailed it on that one.
Yeah, exactly. So, and again, I want to kind of stay on this tech shortage thing, but this is something that kind of intrigues me. And I think this is going to tie in with win for you, Kristle, is I have a sense that women are probably underutilized in the industry and could be a very good resource. Can you speak to that at all?
Yeah, absolutely. So You hit it on the head as far as underutilized, because I think a lot of times when we're thinking about women that are in the collision industry, it's the CSR, it's the admin person, it's whomever, which is great. And a lot of times maybe that's a good way to get started, or, maybe that is, second, third generation, and you're bringing a daughter or a granddaughter into the business. But what I do think the underutilization is women make wonderful techs. Women make wonderful painters, and paint and I talk about this kind of a lot, but there's literal biology in the woman's brain that allows for us to see details and to multitask in different ways than a male brain. And it's not tongue in cheek, it is literal science that this is the way that our brains are created. So as we look at painters, a lot of times you're seeing a ton more detail if it's a female that's doing the painting. But yeah, and it's just, I think what we also need to do as, an industry is we need to make sure that we're making it a good spot to bring, women in. And we want to make sure that as we're recruiting women and men into this industry, that we are making it a safe environment for everyone, if that makes sense.
Right.
And WIN is doing a lot when it comes to the students. We do have scholarship programs with technical schools. We actually are going to be at Skills USA next month and be handing out little swag bags to the female students and interacting with them and learning, about what their career paths are and where they want to go. WIN is also partnering with other women's groups within the automotive industry. It may not necessarily be collision, but I was just on a call yesterday with another nonprofit organization that's more on the automotive side, but we're talking about how we can collaborate. And if they have somebody on their side that wants to be an estimator, well, how can we get them over to you? And how can we, really set them on the right path? Those are some of the things that I'm looking to do in this back half of the year and then into 2025. It pertains to WIN, is looking at these strategic partnerships and what I can do to help the industry and leave it better than I found it.
Okay. That's great. That's great. Did you have anything you want to add, John? Because the one thing I was thinking about was how a CSN are they doing anything to help support this initiative?
Kristle, I know we are. At the same time, I'm just being frank. I would rather work with women. We're going to be hiring people here in the next, couple quarters, and that's going to be more my focus, is bringing more women into our team. We have a team of about 59 right now between Canada and the US, and we're pretty diverse with our group. I think it's super important. Sometimes see why our industry is so male dominant, but at the same time, there's lots of opportunities there where we could be leveraging each other. And I think the more that we can do that, the better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, it's great to have organizations like WIN, but I hope, we get to a point someday we don't need WIN. We don't need, this specific organization that is, geared towards women, because it is just a commonplace. We're not there yet, but we're certainly, as I look, I've been in this industry for over 20 years, and, I'm seeing the shift. And then sometimes I get frustrated, and then I look back and it's like, wow, we really have made a ton of progress.
Yeah.
Your question about CSN, CSN is very supportive of WIN. It was something when I came aboard that was, very important to me, that when I was onboarded, that I was able to stay on the board and be active. And I've gotten nothing but support from the organization on that.
And I think that's great. And I think, like I said, I think women are an underutilized resource. And I think some of it is, it was interesting. I had a conversation with a client of mine about this. One thing I've noticed, especially like we do the Collision Cocktail Hour, if you guys are familiar with that, and we've got all of these shop owners. And one of the things that is we're constantly pounding is, you guys are business owners. You got to run this like a business. I was having this conversation with a client about that, and he's like, yeah, he goes, when I first started, he started a shop, he worked for a guy and then started a shop in the garage behind his house. And he goes, but he was like, my parents would, why are you a grease monkey? And so I think it is, in a sense, a lot of shop owners and, think of themselves as this, and they think of other, techs have a tendency to think of themselves like that. But all of a sudden you're looking at, we're driving freaking computers on wheels. All right. And this is a highly, highly technical business. All right.
Yep.
Mhm.
And so again, I think we've got to kind of shift the mentality on what a tech does. It's not, just getting up and changing oil filters and stuff. It's, we're doing calibrations, ADAS. I mean, just even the research. Think about just the research you have to do to fix a car according to OEM standards.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a great point. And one thing that I've said, sorry, John, is, especially bringing in, the EVs and the hybrids that are coming in. My hope is that that is sort of the catalyst that brings more techs into the industry, that they find that interesting, but also like a higher prestige, of the higher caliber of cars that they're looking at and working on.
Right.
I'm sorry, John, what were you going to say?
That's another part of being in our network, is that we strive to stay in front of all that stuff and to continue to educate the shops that are in our network, because the industry changes on a day-to-day basis. It's not just, this is coming out in the next 6 months. This is coming out tomorrow. And that's most of the time. And if you're not staying on top of the new trends that are happening in the industry, it could be easy to be left behind. So yeah, I think it's really important as far as like the new stuff that's coming out.
Oh yeah, exactly. I mean, it kind of blows my mind. I remember Frank Turlip doing a presentation, and he talked about, I think right now there's, I think 50,000 different data points within a vehicle. And they said within the next 15 years, there'll be over 500,000.
Yep.
I imagine that. Yeah.
Just,
This is not.
It's interesting. I mean, just yesterday, I saw a post where, the post office is looking to do a deal with like Lucid, another EV company. I saw one of the vans, and it's remarkable, but it's happening fast. I mean, just where I live in Salt Lake City, all the Amazon vans here are Rivian now.
Yep.
So it's not like that everywhere, but it's coming. So it's like, you better figure out how to get trained, and they're more dangerous to work with. It's not just turning a wrench anymore. It's you have to be very educated on these types of vehicles.
Exactly. And this was something that kind of popped into my head as we were talking about women. You were talking about painters. On my business Instagram page, it's funny because I remember I was on there one time and I hit the search thing. When it's using AI or something or algorithms to put these posts up there. And I was like, I had all these women painters over there. And they were doing some pretty cool work,
Yeah.
I think that what you said, Kristle, is that they do, just kind of the way the women's brains wire. It's there's details that us guys, we miss it all the time. And I'm with you, John. I mean, it's funny. I'm looking because I need to get some servicing advisors to kind of help me, do the process, the kind of heavy lifting end where I can work with the clients on a much higher level or a much deeper level. I'm looking for women. I think they just bring a different dynamic.
I think sometimes when people look at our industry, they look at it and they say, well, I can't make any money doing that.
You're right.
There's a painter here locally in Salt Lake, that works for a 3-shop MSO, good friend of mine. He happily pays that guy, $350 a year. That's part of the education piece that we need to get out there. It's not just opportunity for job, it's opportunities for careers.
Right.
There's huge upside to being part of this industry, and people don't know what they don't know.
Yeah, exactly right. You're exactly right. Is there like an ideal type of shop that would be a good prospect for you?
I'm always looking for owners that are looking to grow. They're not complacent with where they're at, because the minute you become complacent in this industry, we've talked about it on here, you start to die.
Right.
So if they're not willing to change the way they're doing things or grow with the industry, that's not really somebody we're going to be interested in talking to. We're looking to grow as a network with the right partners in the right shops, have that same kind of mindset, that want to grow with it, not decay and do things the way they used to do back in the 90s. We're a progressive company, and we think that the mentality, it starts with the mentality. That, and then we prefer for our shops to be ICAR Gold or on their way there, because one, it's an investment in the training, and that shows that it's not just a plaque on the wall. They had to put some work in to do that stuff. As far as how much the shop is doing, that's negotiable. We don't have a benchmark there. Really, the biggest thing is the mentality of the owner, and that they're fixing cars properly too. There's a lot of shops out there that are, hack jobs. Just being honest. I travel to California a lot and visit a lot of shops. there's ambulance chasers. There's so many things that are corrupt on that side of the business. We do our due diligence when we bring on a new shop, but yeah, just to come back to it, I mean, the mentality of the shop owner and that they care about their employees and they care about fixing cars properly are the top things for us.
You want to add, Kristle?
Definitely the iCard is definitely a big part. And I know that sometimes people have their opinions about whatever that is, and here nor there. The most important thing is we're putting a family or a human being back into a car and, take all of the noise out. That's what it's all about, is making sure that when that person gets back in their car, we have done everything that we possibly can to ensure that it is safe and reliable. It's just about doing the right thing.
Right,
Yep.
right. And, I don't think it's any different than any other industry. I mean, I see it in my financial services. I mean, there's the guys that are trying to do the right thing all the time, trying to guide the clients the right way. And then there's others that are just out there selling product,
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
I warn people about insurance people all the time, because I said, the one thing you just got to be careful of is that they make money selling a product. So they're going to sell you something. All right. It may not be what you need, or maybe even be enough coverage that you need. But, I think, whether it's in financial services or getting your car fixed, you want to go to somebody who's going to have your best interest in mind and not be afraid to, tell you as it is. I mean,
Right.
a lot of people are out there, I usually have shops do an assessment when they first come to me. Every one of them says, one of the question is, your customers, do they care about price? Are they just going to shop for price? Or do they care about quality work? And most of them are just like, well, they're just really, it really comes down to price. But we've got to, I think as an industry, we got to educate the customers that are coming in. And me being coming from the outside in, I didn't know half this stuff. I mean, if I wrecked my car, I just kind of like, all right, insurance company tells me to take it to the shop. I take it to that shop. I don't know what's being done. I have no idea. And I think we have a responsibility to educate the customers.
Absolutely.
What their rights are, and also how the car is being fixed.
Yeah, I mean, case in point, my brother just got into or hit a deer this past weekend, and he had no idea what to do, who to talk to, who is a reputable shop. And so luckily big sister had a little knowledge in that, able to guide him through the process. But, when you get into a car accident or run into someone or something, it's really stressful. And especially if you're not in this industry at all, know nothing about it, it's very overwhelming, and you don't know who's telling you the truth. It can be really, really, I don't mean to be dramatic, but traumatizing, as you go through it.
I think one of the big things, that's happening in our industry right now is there is a lot of negativity. We're being honest. A lot of that stems from stuff that's happened in the past. What I always try to focus on is, what was the communication? Right. And how are you communicating? Because, just because something happened in the past doesn't mean that, it has to be that way in the future. And we should all be focused on the outcome of something positive versus negative. Like I said, I'm a big proponent of that, because, we go to all these events and you hang out at the bar and you hear these conversations. They just turn into these, for lack of a better word, a bitch session.
Yeah.
And that does nothing to move our industry forward. And that's where CSN's mentality is. We're not focused on the negative stuff that's happening. We're focused on, okay, well, how can we turn that into a positive and make that an opportunity for not only the shop owner, but maybe the carrier they're working with, because it doesn't always have to be the negative experience we had before. It can be different. We just have to change the conversation we're having.
I completely agree with you on that. And I think it's comforting, and it's actually helped me to understand what you guys do better. I say this in my, in a lot of my talks that I do. Frank Turlop, I was at CIC that was piggybacked off of SEMA, and I was on a panel discussion with 5 other M&A people. I was only a non-M&A person. And the last question Frank asked, he says, so is the industry going to become the Home Depots and the Walmarts of the world? And I had the mic in my hand, and you guys kind of blurted out. I said, oh, over my dead body. And everybody kind of laughed. And I was like, well, I said, what I mean is and I equate it to the hardware business. In my little town, we've got a Home Depot and a Lowe's. All right. And then we got Bentley Hardware. And Bentley Hardware is an Ace Hardware store. All right. Yeah. But it's been family owned for 75 years. You get personalized services in there. When I got a project I got to do, I go to Bentley. I can say, here's what I'm doing. They can tell me, here's what you need. Here's the tools that you need. Here's how we can do this. I mean, I literally, at one time, they did my sewer line. And I had kind of a gap. under a crawl space and I was afraid of critters getting in. So I went down there and like the guy took me in the back room and we were like cutting this mesh wiring and he said, oh, you can get a clamp and do this. And we literally built this contraption to cover the hole. I mean, you don't get that at Home Depot. Half the time
Yeah,
it's like, I think it's an L12, you know?
exactly. Oh, exactly.
And
Yeah.
that's where I see
Yeah.
the independent shops kind of fitting in. And I think they can be that.
It's funny that you mentioned Ace Hardware because Ace Hardware started out as a network. I mean, they
Okay.
started out to, compete against the Lowe's and the Home Depot. So that's it's a great correlation of what we're doing right now in the industry. I mean, if you look at, I think I saw last week that, Red Lobster they went bankrupt, and then it wasn't really bankrupt. It was just private equity selling to another company that they also owned. So, I mean, it's happening in all of the industries. It's just a matter of how it looks, but it often
Mhm.
sometimes does come down to just money.
Right.
And so if you're aligned with the right people, it doesn't always have to look that way.
Right.
So, yeah.
Exactly.
One other point I wanted to point out, because I know some people might listen to this and they might think that, oh, these guys are they're pro DRP, they're pro this, pro that. It's not necessarily that. We've got shops in our network that are very pro DRP, and that's their business model, and we respect that.
Okay.
And we've also got shops in our network that are very focused on OE certifications, and that's their business model. And we also support them too. So it's not just, because I think sometimes people want to put us in the same kind of category as some of these other programs out there that, oh, well, if you join this program, you'll get on this DRP. And that's what it's all about. That's just one aspect of what we do as a company. So
That's a great point. What I was going to bring up is kind of tying it back is the mission of CSN, and I pulled it up, is make the collision repair experience better today than it was yesterday.
Yeah.
And, it's simple, but really, I mean, since I have joined this company, that's exactly what I see is we're just trying to do better. That's our gauge is me against me. Did I do better than I did yesterday? And that's, all you can do is take these small steps to make it a better industry. And,
Right.
I always say this industry has given me so much and I just want to give back, I just want to give back to it. And that comes with the positivity and having the mindset of good intentions and, making it better today than it was yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. It's interesting because again, being kind of an outsider coming in, I think that was the thing that really appealed to me. I mean, I tell people like they ask me, well, how did you find the collision industry? And I said, I think it found me more than I found it.
Yeah.
But I think it was the people and the principles that guided the good shop owners that was what attracted to me. And so I think I share the same value system as a lot of these shop owners. And again, so that's where we can work in conjunction with them,
yeah,
so I think
there's a lot of really good people in our
yeah.
industry. So, I mean, and they deserve to be supported because, I mean, oftentimes they're working 70, 80-hour weeks.
Mhm.
They rarely go on vacation. Their body shop is another child to them.
Yeah.
And they do deserve the same kind of support that, some of these private equity, companies come in with. And that's always going to be a passion of mine. And I know Kristle holds the same kind of values, is that we just want to help.
Right.
So,
right. Yeah. And like you said, it's an industry full of good people and you two are a part of that family too. So I really appreciate that. This is one of the problems when I have guests, because I could just go on and on. Let's get a cocktail and we could sit back and talk a little bit.
Clearly, John and I don't like to talk, so
Oh, okay, that's okay. Exactly, exactly. So, but anyway, just as we're closing, do you guys have any final thoughts? Kristle, I'll start with you.
Sure. Well, first of all, just appreciate, the opportunity to be on here today and how I just want to share, the way that Matt and I met was, at the PPG conference.
Yeah.
We had booths next to each other, just started chatting and getting to know each other, ended up spending the majority of the time, together and hanging out and being part of each other's groups. And That's exactly what this is all about, and the networking, and you just never know who's going to cross your path, and you also never know who you're going to need in the future to help you out, to pull you out of a bad place, pull someone else out of a bad place, celebrate the good. So it was just, yeah, absolute pleasure to meet you and then be able to expand on that, friendship. So
Well, and I'm
thank you.
sure this will continue for many, many years. So
Yes.
anyway, John, you got anything final to say?
Matt, I commend you for what you're doing, and there's definitely a need in our industry, and it's all about the networking part, right? It's about bringing good people together and creating some awesome possibilities. And one, if you're listening to this as a shop owner and you're feeling that crunch in the industry, give us a call. Let's at least have a conversation. I am not a hard sales guy. I'm more about like, what can we do for you? And if it's a fit, it's a fit. If it's not, go be part of something else. But if you're going to stay independent in this climate that we're in, if you're not going to be part of CSN, go find a network to be part of, because it's getting harder and harder out there. I don't say that from a place of scarcity. I say that because it's a fact. I mean, just every day that, shops are being bought and sold, and it's an ever changing thing in our industry. So the more support that you can get, the better.
Right.
So yeah,
Oh,
I
there's
appreciate
no
you having
doubt.
us on.
No problem. And I think you guys do provide a real solution to the independent owner that either doesn't want to or really can't exit in a way that they want to, and help them to build equity, and also maybe be able to transfer that business and create a family legacy. Because, you guys know my tagline is really, I'm all about aligning the family and business to create generational wealth. And
Mhm.
so, but that's why I think it's so important to have that business functioning at the highest level and be able to help with those transitions and changes that happen in this industry. So I really want to thank you guys. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, if your goal is to sell, in the next 5 years, you want to maximize your profit to the max. So my deal is if there's room for improvement right now and your goal is 5 years from now, partnering with somebody like us that's going to help you be more profitable, so that when you finally do sell, you're going to get the best bang for your buck.
Right.
I think it's something to look into.
I definitely agree. But I also think too that, we can continue to keep this legacy going of the
For
independent
sure.
shop and what they bring to the table. Because like I said, there is definitely a place for the independent shop in this world.
Absolutely.
And I think, it's only going to get better, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So listen, I want to thank you guys for being on the show. The last thanks goes to you, the audience. Thank you for being on Your Business, Your Life with me, Matt DiFrancesco. And if you've not subscribed to the podcast, please click the subscribe button below. That way, when a new episode comes out, you'll get to hear great guests like Kristle and John here. And also, if you're watching us on YouTube, please give us a like, and also if you can give us a 5-star review, that would be great. Again, that kind of moves us up the charts here. So we'll also have all of Kristle and John's contact information in the show notes. So everything's going to be in there. You can always reach out to me too. If more than happy to do that, you can go to my website, highliftfinancial.com, click the Let's Talk button. I give everybody 30 minutes of my time. And the thing I always promise is, even if I can't help you, I will get you pointed in the right direction. That's just the value proposition that I bring to the table. So anyway, with that, I want to thank you guys. Thank the audience. So we'll see you next time on Your Business, Your Life. So take care and God bless. Hey, I really want to thank you for listening to the Your Business, Your Life podcast. If you want to be notified when new episodes become available, click the subscribe button below.
The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of High Lift Financial. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investment, legal, or tax advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified professional with any questions you may have regarding your business or personal planning. DiFrancesco Financial Concierge, LLC, DBA High Lift Financial, is a registered investment advisor. Registration with the United States Securities and Exchange Commission or any state security authority does not imply a certain level of skill or training.